After that, we met in the Conestoga room for an orientation session. I want to thank Sylvia Anaya, the deputy clerk, and city clerk and treasurer Lynette Strecker. They provided us mayor and council handbooks. They're not really handbooks, they're huge notebooks, but they are full of really valuable, useful information and easy to use information. City clerk and treasurer Lynette Strecker introduced us to the concept of budgeting, the process, upcoming issues that we'll have as we develop a budget over the next coming months. Deputy Clerk Sylvia Anaya gave us a good tour of the city website. I think that's a fine website, it really is. If you're interested in it, that's located at Torrington, torringtonwy.gov. Again, that was an excellent orientation. All the mayor, myself, and all the members of the council were present for that. So thank you, gentlemen, for attending that. I want to let everybody know that the Wyoming legislature is in session. This is the 40-day session. Some years it's allegedly 20 days and some years allegedly 40. But this is the 40-year session, and I just want to remind everybody that they can contact the Goshen County Senator and the Goshen County Representatives. Sherry Steinmetz has an email of CHERI, or capital CHERI dot capital STEINMETZ at WYOLEG.gov. Representative Scott Smith is available by email at capital S Scott, SCOTT dot capital S Smith at WYOLEG.gov. And finally, Representative Alan Schlegel, who represents a slice of Goshen County in Torrington. He is at Allen, capital ALLEN dot Schlegel, SLAGLE at WYOLEG.gov. So those are email sites for your local senator and representatives at that are currently in session at the legislature. If you're of a mind to, please share with them your concerns, your questions, kudos if you think they deserve it, and any ideas you may have. Last week, actually this week, well, no, it was last week, I believe, I signed the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Agency Annual Report. That's known as OSHA. It requires the city to file an annual report regarding work injuries, how many reportable work injuries, and how many days of missed work. This year, or for 2022, there were 2 reportable work injuries and a total of 55 days of work missed. That's not perfect, but I do think it's an excellent safety record for a city of this size and some of the dangerous or potentially hazardous or dangerous things that city employees do. I spoke briefly to Billy James, the city safety coordinator, this morning, and he wasn't as impressed with the 2 injuries as I was, because he said in years past we've had 0 injuries. So that's still a good record, and I want to congratulate the employees and the supervisors for keeping their workers safe, the city safety committee and the city employees. Job well done. It's this time of the year, so the streets and sanitation department, Ed Hawley, the department head, will get a lot of kudos from this seat. And that is because I think the snow removal and the sanding in Torrington has been excellent. It's not perfect, but it's excellent. So it's supposed to snow again tonight, I hear, and tomorrow, and maybe even tomorrow night, so be ready for that. I also want to thank Mike Lira and all those who are involved in all the city sidewalks that are, or sidewalks owned by the city, that have to be cleared when it snows, including a whole lot of city parking lots. So kudos to Mike Lira and all those people that are involved in doing that. So thank you for that. Please slow down on slick city streets. I think speed is the issue. I know there were several collisions this last snowstorm, and it was really slick with I think it rained a bit and you had slick streets. So please slow down. Always call on pedestrians. I know they teach you have the right of way, but pedestrians, watch out for yourselves. You have a duty to keep an eye on what you're doing too. So please watch out for yourself, keep yourself safe, safe. And as always, please refrain from using the cell phones when driving. That's not safe. Let's all do our part to keep ourselves and others safe. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the 01/03/23 council meeting as published. And there are no additions this evening to that agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
That was a tie.
Give it to the new guy.
Thank you, Councilman Victorin. There's a second. Any further discussion on the approval of the agenda?
A consent agenda.
Consent agenda. Yes, thank you. No further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing none and the approval of the consent agenda is passed. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And again, I spoke a little prematurely. There are no additions to this agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly.
Second?
Thank you, Councilman Deal, for the second. Any discussion on the approval of the agenda for this evening? Hearing none. All those in favor of the approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing none, approval of the agenda is passed. Next item is the public forum. Just so everybody knows, this is for non-agenda items. There is a time limit of 2 minutes, and the speaker must sign up before the meeting. This is a time for the council to listen. No action will be taken. And I don't believe there's been any sign-ups for that. Okay, the clerks are agreeing with me. Next item on the agenda are the action items. The first item is item 1A, mayor's appointments. The first item is the appointment of Councilman Rick Patterson as Mayor Pro Tem. For explanation, that is if I'm unavailable to serve as mayor for illness or absence or whatever it may be the cause, then I'm appointing Richard Patterson, Councilman Richard Patterson, to be Mayor Pro Tem. I have the power of appointment, and the council has the power to consent to the appointment. So, are there any questions about that? Or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the appointments as presented.
All right, that's the appointment for Mayor Pro Tem.
Would you like to do it one by one
Yes,
at a
sir.
time? Okay, then I would move to approve the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem as Councilman Patterson.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. All those in favor of all those in favor to approve and consent to Mayor Pro Tem being Richard Patterson, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing none, that is passed.
Mayor, I would like to go on the record as abstaining from this vote.
Okay, thank you. The record will reflect that Councilman Patterson abstained. That still leaves a majority of ayes, unanimous ayes, absent or besides Rick Patterson, and so that passed. Councilman Rick Patterson will be Mayor Pro Tem. Congratulations. The next item on the agenda is 1B, which are mayor's appointments, and there was an attached list. It was provided with the agenda. And I am just going to go through not each and every person appointed, but the boards and committees and so on that I'm seeking your consent for appointment. That's contained, attached to your agenda, and that's the Airport Board, the Consolidated Wyoming Municipality Electric Joint Powers Board, Economic Development Board, Health Insurance Committee, Industrial Park Committee, Investment Committee, NMPP/MEAN Board Members, Performance Evaluation Committee, Safety Committee, Wage Committee, Community Gas Joint Powers Board Committee, and that is it that's on the agenda for appointment tonight. Any questions or comments about the mayor's appointments?
Mr. Mayor, I see there are alternates listed for a couple of those positions. Will those be filled later? Or does that mean the appointee is the alternate?
Go ahead.
Or I can explain it.
Go ahead, Councilman Patterson.
A number of these committees already have members on them whose terms are not expired, and so they're not listed on this list. So these are just the vacancies that currently exist in the position they're being placed in. So,
Okay.
does that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. There will be additional appointments in the future, but as of this evening, these are the list of the mayor's appointments. And again, the mayor has the power to appoint, and the council has the power to consent or not consent to the appointment. Any other questions about the mayor's present appointments?
I would move to approve these appointments.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discuss? Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? All those in favor of action item 1B, the mayor's appointments, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Thank you. Those appointments are consented to by the council. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 2023-2. This involves representative and alternative representative appointments to the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool, NMPP Members Council. Mr. Eddington, would you please read the resolution?
Certainly, Mayor. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming, that said city being hereby as a member of the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool. City Council of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming does hereby appoint Danny Utes as a representative of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming to the Members' Council of the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool. City Council of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming does hereby appoint Herb Doby as the alternate representative of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming to the Members' Council of the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool. This is to certify the appointments set out above were approved by the City Council of the City of Torrington, State of Wyoming at their meeting on January 17, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. Mrs. Strecker, anything to add to that?
Mayor, Council, this particular board requires a separate resolution for member. They will vote on several issues regarding our wholesale power with MEAN, Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska. I believe there is a meeting this week, so we need to get this down to them as soon as possible.
Okay, and that's my understanding that this agency board requires a separate resolution.
Yep.
All right, any further questions or comments by council? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2023-2?
I would so move.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Councilman Deal. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of resolution number 2023-2, appointing a representative and alternate representative appointment to the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool, NMPP Members Council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. That is passed. The council will now leave regular session and convene as a board of adjustment. This is, we're hearing the council is hearing this as the Board of Adjustment. The Goshen County Care Center Joint Powers Board is requesting a setback variance from the required 25 feet to 15 feet to build a garage to house vans for the Goshen County Care Center. And I believe each councilman was provided a map of that and where the setback would be on that property located at 2009 Laramie Street, the Care Center. All right. As part of this process, there is open to the public for public comments. Are there any public comments for or against the granting of this variance? Seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions by councilmen for Mr. Estes?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Estes, I would presume by the time frame between 6 and 6:10 the other night that there wasn't much discussion about the issue amongst the Planning Commission? Or was
Councilman Victor, that's correct. They opened the meeting, voted yes, and left.
Okay.
So it's basically a formality in this case.
Sure. I would just wondered if there was much discussion amongst the commission is all.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Estes, I have a question. When you took us on the tour last Friday, we drove through that parking lot where this variance, the parking lot that's related to this variance.
Correct, Mayor. On this map here, you'll see, of course, there's the Alzheimer's unit and the care center. That's the new kitchen addition a few years ago. And up here in these trees, on your map, you'll see around these trees, they're going to put that garage right there. So those trees have been there for some time. It's never caused an issue. The garage is going to be behind it. Goshen County Construction has promised to make up the parking spaces here somewhere around here that he's losing because they have required parking they have to have there, off-street parking. So I think we got that all figured out. We've had no comment from the public, and staff would recommend approval.
So where are the parking stalls supposed to come from?
They're going to clean some stuff up back in here. There's always construction trucks and stuff back in here, but they're going to clean some stuff back up in here, and we got to make up about 4 spots, I think.
And the entrance to the garage is all going to be from in the parking lot, not off the street, correct?
Correct. It's going to come from the south. The entrance is right here. So they'll be entering either way here, through here and out. The garage doors will face the south.
Now, is this garage going to have electricity and plumbing or anything to it?
No plumbing. It will have power,
Underground power?
probably. Just a point on that, up there in that subdivision, it all has to be underground. They can't have above-ground power. Part of the ordinance, or the covenants is in that district up there.
Are there any other questions from council? Mr. Estes, I have a question. This variance, if granted, will not interfere with the traffic movement along Albany Avenue or Laramie Street whatsoever?
We don't believe it will because those trees have been there forever. It is a controlled intersection. We've had some issues with the stop signs here, so it is a controlled intersection going all the way around it, so I think we'll be fine. They'll have to come up here and come to a stop anyway. At some point, if these get too out of hand, they'll have to do some trimming of those trees. So currently not a huge traffic load up there unless the baseball's going on.
Hey,
Kind
Councilman Kelly, go ahead.
of materials is this going to be built with?
It'll be a wood frame constructed building. It'll match pretty much what that kitchen looks like,
So it'll have like wood siding on it?
wood siding. Well, yeah, manufactured siding, horizontal, I believe. It'll look pretty much like the kitchen does.
Any further questions or comments by councilman?
Would move to approve this variance.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Victor. Any further discussion? All those in favor of granting the Goshen Care Center Joint Powers Board request for a setback variance from the required 25 feet to 15 feet to build a garage to house vans for the Goshen Care Center? All those in favor of granting that variance signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed signify by saying nay. That has passed, that variance for the Goshen County Care Center Joint Powers Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. And now the council will return to regular session. The next item on our agenda is a catering permit. That's item number 4. Jan Harvey with BZ Hospitality LLC is requesting a catering permit for an Eastern Wyoming College Foundation Sagebrush and Roses event to be held on January 28th, 23, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 3401 West C Street here in Torrington. Chief Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the same event that EWC hosts every year. Jan Harvey hosted the event for the catering permit purposes last year as well. Anytime I have a catering permit that heads your way, I try to chat with the folks ahead of time and come up with a plan where we're pretty confident that the liquor will be contained appropriately and served appropriately. I feel good about the plan that we put together. It's going to be completely contained inside the ATEC building. They're not guaranteeing that there won't be anyone under 21 years of age there, but it's primarily marketed as an adult event. Liquor will be served in one location with IDs and wristbands for the purposes of making sure that that stays where it's supposed to be. And then Jan Harvey and her team will have a handful of folks there, and there'll be somewhere between 10 and 15 EWC staff there as well who will have instruction on keeping an eye on things. They've agreed to sign the doors, and shouldn't be a problem with it being a safe event.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief by councilman?
And this is only supposed to last 2 hours?
Yeah, I believe it's the prelude to the event, the larger event out at the Rendezvous Center.
It's a reception that,
Yep.
yeah, before the
Okay.
main event out at the Rendezvous.
Given the hours from 4 to 6, we don't expect that to be too significant from a impact side of things.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Johnson from the council? Deputy Clerk Anaya, just want to make sure the chief has talked to this caterer and it looks good to the chief. This paperwork looks good to the clerk?
Yes.
All right, any questions for the clerk about the paperwork? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve this catering permit that we've discussed with Jan Harvey of BZ Hospitality LLC.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the permit as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Victorin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I think I heard Councilman Patterson first.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving this catering permit with Jan Harvey of BZ Hospitality signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. That catering permit is allowed by council. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 2023-3. Mr. Eddington, could you please read that?
It's a resolution authorizing submission of a local government project ARPA grants application to the State Loan Investment Board on behalf of the governing body for the city of Torrington for the purpose of replacing 6,500 feet of 4-inch ductile iron water main with 8-inch C900 PVC, 4,850 feet of existing storm sewer with new RCP storm sewer, various diameters, and street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Whereas the governing body for the city of Torrington desires to participate in the local government project ARPA grant program to assist in financing this request. Whereas the governing body of the city of Torrington recognizes the need in the request. Whereas the local government project ARPA grant program requires certain criteria be met as described in State Loan and Investment Board's rules and regulations governing the program, and to the best of our knowledge, this application meets those criteria. Whereas if any of the dispersed grant funds are later deemed to not comply with the SLEB criteria or criteria of the American Rescue Plan Act, the grant applicant agrees to repay the ineligible grant funds within 15 days of such finding to the Office of State Lands and Investments. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Torrington that a grant application in the amount of $5,040,000 be submitted to the State Loan Investment Board for consideration at the next board meeting to assist the funding of the Torrington East Street improvements. Be it further resolved that Herb Dobie, Mayor, is hereby designated as authorized representative of the city of Torrington to act on behalf of the governing body in all matters relating to this grant application, passed and approved and adopted the 17th day of January, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. Mr. Harkins?
Yeah, this is, basically, we applied for 4 ARPA grants originally with the state. We were fortunate enough to be awarded one of the ARPA grants for the wastewater pretreatment facility in the amount of $3.5 million. The other 3 grants did not receive any funding. The state has opened up a new application process under this local government project ARPA grant program in that amount of $50 million. So we are resubmitting the 3 applications that we did not receive approval or funding for in the original ARPA submission.
Thank you, Mr. Harkins. Any questions by councilman?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Victor?
Director Harkins, could you tell me a little bit more about this project? Is this the entire length of East D Street?
It goes from Highway 26 all the way up to 30th Avenue, so technically, yes. As a result of the construction of the water main and the storm sewers, most of the street will be torn up, so part of the application request is to replace the street, curb, gutter, and sidewalks in relation to the project.
Over the weekend, I did some homework on this extensive application. It seems like that there's a lot of information that has to be filed with the State Loan and Investment Board, and I'm just wondering, one, when does this when is it due, the applications, and if everything has been finalized to the application. I noticed that there was a lot of information they were looking for in terms of justification of the projects that are submitted.
The previous ARPA grant that we submitted is going to serve as this application. There's only a couple of things that we need to do to basically resubmit the application that we've already got on file. That's a resolution, which we're doing right now, certification from the mayor. We have to provide contact information, and we have to provide a ranking sheet. The ranking sheet is something that I'm doing currently. All this information needs to be submitted on or before January 23rd.
One of those questions in the application I noticed was if there was any matching money for any of these projects. Is there?
Torrington
plan
is
for that?
submitting, or did submit with the original grant application, a 16% matching, and that will come out of the city's NEU funds.
And so the only prior ARPA or CARE grant money received by the city would be for that wastewater pretreatment facility?
The ARPA grant, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Director Harkins.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions from council for Director Harkins?
Well, I don't know whether it's directed to Mr. Harkins or maybe Jim. All these make reference to a resolution 2023-3-4 and -5. But it's not on the paperwork. Does it have to be?
That is more for our tracking. As we go, each one, we number them throughout the year, so I don't think that's a requirement for them.
Yeah, this is straight off of their spreadsheet. I typed in the information, you know, the city of Torrington and all the information here, but there's no place on that spreadsheet for an identifier like the 2023.
Even though that's the way we're approving it is by resolution.
Correct.
Okay, as long as all works.
Should be fine.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one more question. Does staff have a priority ranking of these projects that are remaining? I noticed on the pretreatment application, that was priority number 1.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering if the SLIB board was to come and ask.
Priority number 2 was the well 16 connection. Priority 3 was this project here, which is the East Egan street improvements, and priority 4 was the Albany Avenue improvements.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead, Councilman Victor.
If there was no further discussion, I would move to approve Resolution 2023-3.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion on resolution number 2023-3? Hearing none. All those in favor of this council passing resolution number 2023-3, resubmitting request for an ARPA grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing none, resolution number 2023-3 is passed. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 2023-4. Mr. Eddington.
It's a resolution authorizing submission of a local government project ARPA grants application to the State Loan Investment Board on behalf of the governing body for the city of Torrington for the purpose of replacing 810 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main with 8-inch C900 PVC, 535 feet of 6-inch Schedule 20 PVC water main with 8-inch C900, 900 PVC, and street curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Installation of 185 feet of SDR 35 sewer. Now therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Torrington that a grant application in the amount of $756,000 be submitted to the State Loan Investment Board for consideration at the next board meeting to assist in the funding the Torrington Albany Avenue improvements. Be it further resolved that Herb Doby is hereby designated as the authorized representative of the city of Torrington to act on behalf of the governing body in all matters related to this grant application, passed, approved, and adopted the 17th day of January, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. Director Harkins?
Basically, same situation. This is just for the Albany Avenue improvements. For your information, that goes from West C Street to Campbell Drive. Basically, installation of a new water main, and also it goes down West C Street, just short, I think, of the ATEC entrance on the west side of the street.
Any questions from council to Director Harkins?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. These amounts that you've arrived at, I assume that you've put in some sort of inflation escalator in there too, not necessarily in that figure, but in your figuring of to come up with that dollar figure.
Correct. Yeah, these were all post-COVID estimates, so.
Very good.
But that's not to say that they're gonna not be higher and hopefully lower, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens.
And again, this is a reapplication
Correct.
because there's 50 million left that cities and towns can reapply for
Correct?
Any further questions by council? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-4.
Thank you, Councilman Deal. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. All those in favor of resolution number 2023-4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Resolution number 2023-4 is passed. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 2023-5. Mr. Eddington?
A resolution authorizing submission of a local government project ARPA grants application to the State Loan Investment Board on behalf of the governing body for the city of Torrington for the purpose of construction of a well house, pumps, piping, RO unit, backup generator, and SCADA components to connect the newly constructed well number 16 to the city's water distribution system. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Torrington that a grant application in the amount of $1,300,000 be submitted to the State Loan Investment Board for consideration at the next board meeting to assist in the funding of the Torrington well number 16 connection. Be it further resolved that Herb Dobie, Mayor, is hereby designated authorized representative of the city of Torrington to act on behalf of the governing body on all matters relating to this grant application, passed and approved and adopted the 17th day of January 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. Director, any question? Or Director Harkins, would you address this, please?
Last year, the city went through the Wyoming Water Development Commission and installed a well. It's well 16 in Pioneer Park. That well is currently capped off. This project would be to connect that well to our distribution system. We're hoping that if we get this grant, we will have the capacity to put in an RO unit to treat that water at the site. And obviously, if we didn't get the RO unit, it would just have to go into our transmission line to our regular water plant down here next to the overpass.
All right. Council, any questions for Director Harkins?
Mr. Mayor, the idea of the project director, is that to create some redundancy with our water system?
That's correct. Currently, the City of Torrington has 3 wells down at the golf course. Those are the primary wells that feed the transmission system to the water plant. We currently have a well 15, and this would be well 16. Those 2 wells would provide backup supply in the event that the well field down at the golf course goes down for whatever the reason.
The plan for the well house and all that appurtenances for the well, where would that be constructed at Pioneer Park, if this was to be approved?
The well is situated right north of that access road that goes kind of to the fire training facility. So it's right in that corner next to, I forget what the name of that is.
West 14th, it's right across.
West 14th? Yeah, West 14th.
That's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any further questions from council for Director Harkins?
Just to clarify, this, it would be the number 1 priority still, or has that been determined yet?
Currently, yeah, I would say that it's still number 1 priority. We do already have a Wyoming Water Development Commission grant that has a match to that, and that we're using that as part of our match for this grant.
Thank you.
That was a backup well that was more or less in a recommendation, wasn't it?
That was one of the recommendations that came out of the level 3 study level 1 study that our consultant AVI prepared for the city.
Mr. Mayor, is it not true that even though we're talking about priorities, that priorities are fungible depending on whether or not we get funding?
Well, true. I mean, obviously, if we get one of the other grants and we don't get 2 of these, well, whatever the priority, that'll be our number 1 priority.
And I'm going to ask a redundant question. This, again, is a reapplication.
Exactly.
The first application was denied, and now the city has an opportunity to reapply for some of this ARPA money.
Correct.
All right, any further questions for Director Harkins? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to pass resolution number 2023-5.
I would so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Victor, Councilman Victorin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 2023-5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Resolution number 2023-5 is passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 8 is an award bid, fiscal year 23 Baylor Building Addition. Excuse me, staff recommends awarding the bid to Goshen County Construction of Torrington, Wyoming in the amount of $78,100 and reserve $3,900, which would be 5% contingency for a total project total of $82,000. Director Harkins, can you speak to this?
Okay. The fiscal year 23 Baylor Building Addition consists of a 22-foot by 45-foot addition to the Baylor facility. The addition is steel construction with traditional or grade beam footings with a 6-inch stem wall. The addition will have one 36-inch steel walk-in door with a window and one 14-foot by 14-foot insulated overhead door with windows and garage door opener. The addition will not have a finished floor or electrical to be completed at a later date, but shall have an insulated roof. A bid opening was held at 2 p.m. on January 11th, 2023. 2 bids were submitted in conformance with the bidding requirements and are shown below, as well as summarized on the attached bid tabulation spreadsheet. Goshen County Construction submitted a bid of $78,100. Paul Reed Construction submitted a bid of $94,087. The project will have a substantial completion date of November 19th, 2023. Funding for this project was established in the 2023 fiscal year budget under account number 54-40-885 in the amount of $70,000. The balance of the funding, $12,000, will also come from that account by reducing the amount that was allocated for the design of landfill number 3 from $100,000 to $88,000. Be happy to answer any questions. Also, Ed Hawley's here in case you want to ask him any questions.
Does the council have any questions for Director Harkins?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Mayor, but I was appreciative of the tour that was given to the council last Friday that really more or less answered everything that I would have needed to ask tonight. So I want to thank the staff for that and bringing us up to speed on this project.
Now, it mentions that an insulated roof and an insulated door. Is the sidewalls insulated too?
Ed says no.
Why weren't the sidewalls insulated?
Yeah, answer that, Ed? Okay.
I mean, if we're gonna insulate the roof and the door,
Mayor and council, the roof I wanted insulated so it doesn't drip water when it does heat and get condensation, and the walls are, basically it's just a windbreak. Just something to keep the wind off of us when have Wheatland there for an hour 3 times a week.
So we really wouldn't need an insulated door then either, would we?
We get north winds and they'll whistle right in there if you got an open door.
Well, how much more would it cost to insulate the building? I mean, you could,
I'm not real sure. I guess I'd have to ask the contractor.
I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to do it that way. To me, it doesn't anyway. But eventually, that part of that building's gonna heat it in the floor and everything else in it, isn't it?
Hopefully someday the building moves 5 miles west of town.
Move this 22 by 40 addition up.
No, leave it there and use it for extra garage or storage.
Any,
I'm just wondering why the walls were insulated too.
Just keep the sweat off. I know the other building that we have, that we've built, it has no insulation in the roof at all, and it drips water all summer long, so I didn't want that going on in this particular building.
Okay. No more questions from me?
Thank you.
Mr. Hawley, before you go. That Baylor area that we saw the other day, that's heated and needs to be heated, right?
Yes,
Okay. And by not having this building, that's a problem with the heat's running, but the cold air's blowing it right out the other door, right?
yes, sir.
So it should save on heat costs once this addition is put on that north side.
It will definitely help.
And I think, Mr. Hawley, either you can answer this or Director Harkins. This was originally budgeted at $70,000. The bid came in at $78,100, and then a 5% reserve contingency for a total of $82,000. And there was an account that held $100,000 to do engineering about moving the baler out to the landfill, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so there was money available to feed back in to purchase this and get it up to the 82,000?
yes.
And it's speculation, I heard you say 5 years was your hope that the baler would be moved out to the landfill, but who knows, right?
Who knows? It'll be after my time, I'm sure of that. And probably several others.
All right, any further questions for Department Head Hawley?
I would move, Mayor, to award the bid, Goshen County Construction.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson, for the motion. Thank you, Councilman Victor, for the second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of item number 8, award the bid for the fiscal year 23 Baylor Building Addition. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Award bid FY 23 Baylor Building Addition is passed. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional services with MC Schaff and Associates. Staff recommends approval of addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional services with MC Schaff and Associates in the, quote, not to exceed, unquote, amount of $96,196 for engineering services and an estimated amount of $4,818 for material testing costs for a total cost of $101 or $101,014. Director Harkins, can you speak to this?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mayor and Council. On November 2nd, 2022, the city entered into a 5-year agreement for professional service with MC Schaaf to provide engineering services related to the Torrington Municipal Airport. Addendum number 1 is for the design bidding, construction oversight, and closeout services for the nav aid, which is the navigational aids replacement project at the Torrington Airport. The project includes replacing 2-box PAPI, which are precision approach path indicators on runway 10 and runway 28. Replace the REAL, which is the runway end identifier lights on runway 28. Replace the rotating beacon and beacon tower. Installation of new underground conduit, power cable grounding, and junction boxes for the nav aids. Installation of new structural concrete bases for the nav aids. And the rehabilitation of the existing electrical vault room. As part of the FAA requirements, an independent fee estimate is required to evaluate the proposed cost for the engineering services. We did that by asking Kirkham, Michael and Associates out of Nebraska, which the city's used in the past. Was contacted and prepared the IFE for a fee of $2,200. They then used that IFE to negotiate with MC Schaaf the cost of the engineering services. Those negotiations were completed on January 9th, 2023. The results were sent to FAA for evaluation. FAA responded on January 10th, 2023 with their concurrence in the award of the engineering services in the amount of $101,014, which there is an attached letter. Funding for this project is 96% reimbursable, as shown. FAA pays 90% of the cost. Wyoming DOT pays 6% of the cost, and the city pays 4% of the cost. And you can see the breakdown for both the engineering and the estimated construction cost of the project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Director Harkins, am I reading this correctly, that this just provides a cap and fulfills an FAA requirement for the FAA reimbursement portion?
I don't know if I understand your question.
It caps the cost. The cost shall not exceed.
Oh, for the engineering services?
Right.
Correct. MC Schaaf will not receive 1 penny more than that 96,000?
And that's one of the requirements I read of the FAA when we
Correct.
submitted it.
This whole thing is, they've got a lot of requirements and hoops that we have to jump through, but I think it's well worth it for the fact that we get, 96% of this project for basically no cost to the city.
And if I could.
Go
just
ahead, Councilman Patterson.
add a comment to that. My experience on the council for the last couple of years, I always like to see these airport things come through because they are, if everything else was funded at 96%, our lives would be easier. But yeah, these are kind of a easy decision to make in my mind, so.
Mr. Mayor, Director Harkins, question isn't about this project per se, but are there plans for the airport for runway lighting on runway 2 and 20 in the future?
I don't know if there's any issues with the runway lights at this time.
I guess my question is, there are no runway lights on runway 2 and 20?
Oh, 220?
Yes.
Oh, correct. Everything's on 1028,
Yes.
right?
Is there any future plan to?
Not at this time. It's not something that's been considered, but we can look into it.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to reiterate what Councilman Patterson said. It's paid by taxes somewhere, but
Yeah.
it's, the FFA is paying for 96% of this project.
Well, they pay for 90%. The state pays for 6%. So in total, yeah, 96%.
Okay.
I don't suppose any of the 4% that we're supposed to pay, has anybody's approached the county to see if they want to kick any dollars in?
Nobody's approached the county. You're correct.
All right, Councilman, are there any further questions for Director Harkins?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the addendum as presented.
Thank you, Councilman Deal. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. All those in favor of the approval of item 9, addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional services with MC Schaff and Associates, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Addendum number 1 to the agreement for professional services with MC Schaff is passed. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the bills from January 4th of 23 to January 17th of 23. Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Attached to your agenda were a list of bills, and handed out tonight was an additional set of bills. I'd be glad to answer any questions on either set of bills.
On the second set of bills on page 4, under Train US Incorporated, it says December 22 subscription. What would that be for?
That is for our train, Lincoln Center, that is our HVAC system. I believe that is for, they have online access through a dedicated phone line to look into the HVAC system. And I believe that's the subscription for that, but Dennis, do you know?
We have an online yearly maintenance fee with Train. Their technicians in Denver and Casper, if we have an issue, they can get online and they can fix it mostly over the internet instead of having to travel. A lot of times they can either direct Mike to what he needs to do or saves him a trip from coming down here, which is very expensive. So
Is that like not a monthly fee, is it?
it's a yearly fee, subscription,
fee?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it gets paid.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Treasurer Strecker, I have a few questions, and more or less they revolve around why we pay certain vendors. So there's DPC Industries on the first set, along with Hawkins Inc. and Suez WTS USA. And I'm just wondering if they all, looks like they provide chemicals and the one vendor provides chemical management. I believe they're for the water treatment facility, but I just wonder, are they vendors that only supply those things? We have to get them from different vendors all the time? Is that the case here?
So
sure
the
that would
first
be
one
more of
was
a question.
DPC, and what is the other one?
Hawkins Inc.
Councilman Victor, could you tell us what page you're on?
Sure. Well, let's start with the first one. DPC Industries on the first set of page 3.
Thank you.
Okay, so Hawkins, that is for our wastewater treatment plant. DPC Industries is sodium hypochlorite for our water. And then what was the third one?
Suez WTS USA, that would be page 8 on the first set.
So Suez is a monthly chemical management program for our ROs.
Oh, it's a program? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that goes into maintenance, monthly maintenance for our RO units.
And then one other question I have is page 7 of the first set, bottom, Shums Coda Associates.
Councilman Victor, and that is a third-party plan review I use on my larger projects.
Okay.
So the company, say in this case it was Bumgar's, I send them the plans, or they send these plan reviewers the plans. They send me a bill that all gets charged back to the contractor as part of the building permit.
Very good. Those are my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Victor. Are there any other questions for Treasurer Strecker regarding the approval of the bills? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of the bills from January 4th, 23 to January 17, 23?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Deal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of item 10, approval of the bills from January 4th, 23 to January 17th, 23, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Item number 10, approval of the bills from January 4th, 23 to January 17th, 23 is approved. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is a time for any member of the public to address the mayor and the council. I see no one approaching the podium. All right.
Mayor, it's tradition to have the fire chief update us.
I actually have a note here. Anything from Lance Petch, fire chief? I do.
Sorry, Lance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Not much going on in the fire world right now, which is a good thing, as I told Mayor Doby. I think it was the weekend of the 6th, we sent some members to Riverton Fire School. It's just a yearly training that they put on that we like to send members to try to better themselves, get some more experience in areas they're interested in, and work on some certifications. So otherwise, calls have been down a little bit, but with the weather changing tonight, you never know what could happen. So I think things are going well right now in the fire service. So, any questions?
Chief,
Thank you.
past Chief Watson.
So we have a funeral on Friday for past Chief Watson. Are we going to do honor guard? Okay. So,
This coming Friday, that funeral?
Friday's Bud Watson's memorial service, and the fire department's going to help with that with the honor guard.
And where will that funeral be?
It's at the Presbyterian Church at 2 o'clock
In Torrington.
in Torrington.
My condolences on behalf of myself and the council to his family.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
All right. It appearing that there is no further public business to conduct this evening, this meeting is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
You don't have to.
The council wants a motion, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.